Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. Alex Bregman off the board. Thankfully, he signed and agreed and announced his agreement at a very helpful time for everyone, like 10:38 p.m. Eastern time or whatever that was. Deeply annoying, but he has made his decision. His decision was probably the right one, given the price he received in Boston, the ballpark he receives in Boston, and the team he'll be going to, which is a contender in the American League, and we'll be staring up against some daunting teams out in the National League. But you're in the AL, you do what you can, and the Red Sox certainly have this offseason. We've had plenty of Red Sox fans check in and out throughout the offseason. I don't know if anyone are going to be here now. They mostly show up when they're frustrated, and now I don't think they're frustrated. But let's see if we get any Red Sox people. We'll talk about what led to the Bregman decision and how we feel about the aftermath, what it means for teams like the Cubs, Tigers, and I guess Astros, who were not in that final three, but they still do have to move on without him. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Go Birds. Somebody got mad when I said that the other day, so now I'm actually going to say it more. I like saying it more now. It feels good. On the flip side of the Bregman drama, John Mozeliak admitted Nolan Arenado probably going to be the Cardinals opening day third baseman. He's stuck in a way that reminds me of Marcus Stroman and the New York Yankees. We will talk about both of those players later, as well as Nick Pivetta and his $1 million base salary for 2025. How about that? What are the Padres up to late in camp? Here to talk us through all of it is Fansided MLB Insider Robert Murray. Robert, what's up, man? How you doing? I know you're trying to watch the parade today, so we will keep this one short so you get back to the speeches.
No, we're good. It's been a very eventful morning over here. I thought I tweeted Alex Bregman with the wrong team, so that would have been a rough start. I also ripped my pants today while I was squatting at the gym, so that was not great. So it's been a very unique day so far, but I'm anxious for some normalcy here with the podcast because we got a lot to talk about here with Bregman finally making a decision. Nick Pivetta, very interesting one happening there with the San Diego Padres, and a bunch of other stuff happening that we know about. Even some stuff that we don't know about that you're about to know about. So I'm very excited to delve into that. Adam Weinrib, how are you? Go Birds. Happy Friday.
I am good. Happy Valentine's Day. Kyle Hart, Valentine's themed player signed this week as well. So shout out to full hearts, can't lose. Alex Bregman, obviously, a rival of my New York Yankees for a long time, goes from one rival to another. He's a good baseball player. Red Sox got a good baseball player. Yankees getting challenged in the AL. I love it. Yankees sort of stuck in bad vibes mode while the Red Sox have good ones. So we appreciate all the Red Sox fans showing up. Blue Jays fans, trolls, whoever you are, we will open up the conversation with much insight as we can get on the situation. If you haven't joined us in the Discord, we'd love if you would. You can join us either the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier. That's where we have a private Q&As with Robert and myself on occasion. Priorities in this chat right here. If we see you and you are an All-Star, you go right to the front of the line. We will get to the rest of your questions, of course, as the show goes on. If this is your first time, we'll pick up as many of them as we can. And if we don't answer your question, come find us on the Discord between shows. We're there. We're hanging out. Also, subscribe to the Moonshot. That is Fansided's weekly baseball email newsletter with the Fansided MLB team, including Robert Murray and myself, breaking down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info, as well as you can find the Moonshot on the Baseball Insiders feed on Fansided.com. That's Fansided.com/baseball-insiders. That's where you get the latest rumors and notes from Robert, humor and insight from me, and the best of baseball and pop culture from the Fansided MLB staff writers. So check it out. Okay, early reviews of the Bregman deal before we open the notebook, get to new info. $40 million is a lot of money, but 3 years is not. Boston did great. Scott Boras did great. There are deferrals here. Boston did even better, and he clearly wanted to go there. So I think my question is, why did we not hear more about them late in the process? Because we heard about, okay, there might be a divide. Cora wants him. You're not sure if Breslow does. But at the end of the day, Cora wanted him. Bregman wanted to go there. And yes, this is the highest AAV he was offered and the best stadium fit by far, and just the easiest situation to slot him into. He's always been sort of a Dustin Pedroia type, and now guess what? That's where Dustin Pedroia played, so here you go. But I'm sort of surprised that in the final weeks it was like Cubs, and then we know the Tigers have offered him a lot, but with the deal he settled on with Boston, that kind of feels like a home run. I'm surprised that they weren't leading the way in the public eye for the last week, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, and all offseason, the teams that we had heard with Bregman were the Houston Astros, the Detroit Tigers, the Boston Red Sox, and the Chicago Cubs. It was essentially those 4 teams that we had heard about. And we got to see the Astros basically eliminate themselves late in the process, with Dana Brown saying that they had lost Bregman. The Tigers always loomed as a real possibility here. But the Red Sox, throughout this process, I think they were betting on Bregman choosing them over Detroit. And Bregman wanted the years. Like, that was one thing that we heard pretty consistently throughout. And the Tigers offered 6 years for $171.5 million, which is a really strong offer for Bregman. But the Red Sox believed that if they had a competitive offer, that he would choose them. And they did not. They moved, obviously. They had to increase their offer in order to get Bregman, but they moved it up late. They ended up getting a guy like Bregman, who is a huge addition to that lineup, a huge addition to just everything that they've been preaching all offseason. Because we had talked about it earlier this week that the Red Sox were talking big, they were thinking big, and they made it clear at the start of the offseason. They obviously got they got some of these starting pitchers headlined by Garrett Crochet, but they didn't get that real strong elite big name until now with Bregman. So that picture that John Henry's wife, I believe that was his wife, posted of him smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
I respect it. Talk your stuff. I don't want to swear, but
yeah.
I just watched a bunch of Eagles players get bleeped on the parade, so I didn't want to join that crowd. But yeah, no, I respect it. I say good for you, John Henry. This was not a perfect offseason for the Red Sox by any means, but that being said, they got Bregman, they got Crochet, they got some other players this offseason, so I give them props. Because they talk the talk and they walk the walk, and now they got to go out and perform in the field. But getting Bregman was, honestly, it saved their offseason.
Yeah. Pessimistic take on the John Henry photo. John, you had the financial might to do a similar thing for each of the past 5 years. So you're celebrating, deciding to do something you always could have done. You could have extended Mookie Betts. But look, bringing Bregman in, as a Yankee fan, I'm always viewing Red Sox moves via the lens of this is probably going to work. The Red Sox have employed more Yankees killers over the past 21 years than the Yankees have employed Red Sox killers. They excel at building a brand and a team that follows that brand. So my first thought, even if they're signing a Shane Victorino, is this is probably going to work. Bregman, objectively, a great signing, a perfect addition to the Red Sox, given their needs, given their need for a leader, given their need for a bridge to these top prospects. I like what they're saying too. Christian Campbell could be elite, a future star, and he'll get a chance to be that. But right now, Alex Bregman is going to step up and take a role. They're not saying, well, Campbell will hit, so he'll be up in May. We don't need to do all we need to do to round out this roster. No, they were we have the opportunity to get Alex Bregman. He does exactly what we lack. So let's do it. And Christian Campbell, Vaughn Grissom, whatnot will fall in line. They will make room if they excel. They will find a room for these people. The Garrett Crochet move, I think I'm probably in the minority here. I think I like the Walker Buehler edition more than I like the Garrett Crochet trade. I think they gave up the amount you need to give up to get Garrett Crochet. I don't necessarily think the body of work is there. I think they traded an ace package for a guy with ace potential who couldn't complete a full season as an ace. So I like Crochet, don't love it. Love Buehler, love Bregman. And overall, I think the Red Sox end this offseason right at the top of the AL East, if not the top of the American League.
Yeah, I will say this about Garrett Crochet, and I don't blame the Red Sox for going out and doing that. I think that was a move they had to make, especially with the rotation needing the pieces that it did. But last year when Crochet was doing his thing, I talked to numerous players, I talked to numerous coaches and front office people, and I would ask them, who's the best pitcher you faced this year? And more often than not, it was Garrett Crochet. He had dominating stuff. It was either him or Skubal were the guys that were getting the votes from these people that I was talking to. And the upside is tremendous. If you can end up getting that version of Crochet, and you can also get an extension done there, which it seems like he's open to, then that would be a no-brainer move. And they got the player. If they can extend him, that would be awesome, because if he performs like he did last year, you're talking about having one of the best pitchers in baseball under contract for the foreseeable future. You still have him under contract for 2 years now, but I really like that move for them. They gave up a lot. That could come back to bite them in the ass, but I like the upside play, and from what he performed last year, I would have done that too.
Yeah, I am willing to eat crow Shea on it if he's absolutely sick, and if they're able to extend him for sure.
I don't know how you do that. You're good at that.
Look, for me, it's a matter of, I think they gave up the right amount of prospect talent. Kyle Teal, you have a catcher void, and you have like 12 viable middle infielders. So if you could find a way to make Meyer the headliner in that, keep Teal, maybe keep Montgomery, sub him out. I don't know. I'm quibbling though, because it's a great Red Sox offseason. The comments saying this is a typical Yankee fan take. Yeah, no kidding. I'm trying to be fair. I think it's overall a great Red Sox offseason, no matter how you look at it. Worst case, you overpaid slightly for Crochet and he can't quite get you to 180 innings, but he's still elite when he does pitch. So the worst case is pretty damn good. Meanwhile, pivoting to the city of St. Louis, where the worst case is, I don't know what's happening right now. There were rumors that, hey, it was even something I wanted to bring up on the last show and brought it up with Jess a little bit. Like, it was starting to feel like the Red Sox were going to get either Bregman or Arenado, but the winds were blowing, making me think, because of the public perception of the Cubs thing and that what was emanating from that situation, that it was more likely they'd end up cashing in a couple lower tier chips for Arenado as the Cardinals kicked in a lot of that money. And that would have been a nice move too. I think he had bounce back potential in Boston. That's a stadium where if you're looking at a future Hall of Famer in need of a bounce back, you show him that left field wall. Yeah, they'll probably dent it a few times. But Bregman is a Red Sox. Bregman is apparently a second baseman, which is interesting, but Nolan Arenado is a Cardinal, and now, despite it being their plan ABC or 1, 2, 3 or whatever John Mozeliak said, he is apparently they are planning for him to start the regular season in St. Louis. Doesn't make sense to me. He does make sense as a Yankees target, but the Yankees they could not be clearer that they're not interested at this point in time. Every Yankees insider, Jack Curry, Andy Martino, whenever they get on the air, they have to answer the question first. They have to pre-answer it. They're like, Arenado, not someone they're talking about. And then now let's move on. We can talk about other stuff. It's starting to feel like he might get stuck and potentially it's something they have to revisit at the deadline. But what are your thoughts on that situation? Because he's really buttoned up against a wall there.
Yeah, this is a scenario that it felt obvious was going to end up happening at the start of the offseason, because when the Arenado rumors were really out there and that he was seeking a trade, and it was like his salary, his declining performance, and his no trade clause, which it was going to be a limited market no matter what, but that no trade clause really limited things here. And his list was 5 teams. And I mean, we've eliminated a fair amount of them already. And now we have John Mozeliak kind of putting some pressure on him by saying that if he wants a trade, he's going to have to end up opening or expanding that list. It's a situation that it was never going to work out here for the Cardinals. And the only real option here was the Boston Red Sox. And with that door now closed, it's looking increasingly likely that Arenado is going to end up staying in St. Louis, unless he does open up that trade list. But he's made it clear that staying in St. Louis was something that he was open to because it's still a decent situation for him. But as far as the Cardinals go, you entered the offseason making it clear that Arenado and trading him was your top priority, and that you wanted to shed some salary so you could have some of these young guys fill in and have an opportunity to play consistently on a daily basis. And yet you've gone out, you've spent virtually nothing in free agency, and you're going to continue with Arenado. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing. To me, it just feels like an organization that doesn't really have a plan. And Chaim Bloom cannot start in that front office fast enough, because with John Mozeliak running the ship there, it just seems like that organization is like directionless at this point.
Yeah, how bummed is Chaim Bloom that he wasn't able to get some of his favorite Red Sox prospects? He was like knocking on Mozeliak's door every day being like, Blaze Jordan, remember, his name is Blaze. I know it sounds weird, but that's his actual name. And Mozeliak was like, I'm working on it. I'm trying, man. And then, of course, Alex Bregman makes his decision. No longer a fit there in any capacity. There was a Red Sox Twitter account that was like, F it, just go get Arenado too. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, F it, go get some, some more help at other positions. But I don't understand that one at all. That's not F it to me.
No, I would have made no sense. And that move, I was adamant about that. Like, it made no sense for the Red Sox to go out and get Arenado. Getting Bregman makes a ton of sense for them, which I'm glad they did that for their sake. But I think the Cardinals are now stuck with Arenado, and yeah, that team feels like it could really blow up. It could be a really long season in St. Louis if they continue to trend this way, which no bueno at all.
You really start to wonder why he vetoed the deal to the Astros and what he thought would come of vetoing the deal to the Astros, which lots of things are going to have repercussions that are going to reflect on the rest of the season. But that one is the number one, like, pebble in the pond. Like, he rejects that contract. He stays in St. Louis for all intents and purposes. The Astros go out, make that Kyle Tucker trade, get Isaac Paredes, sign Christian Walker. The Astros look completely different in the wake of Arenado vetoing that decision. That sends Bregman to Boston. The New York Yankees could have gotten involved in this trade tree, but they still don't have a third baseman. Like somebody said, Arenado to the Yankees can make sense. Max Fried induces a ton of grounders to third. Well, I'm glad the Yankees' third baseman is DJ LeMahieu then. That makes me feel a lot better. But at least 3 AL contenders are now locked in this together because Arenado vetoed that original trade. Just makes you even more confused. I'm really, really not sure what happened with the Houston interest and why he was just out there.
No, neither do I. And that was his best chance, not name the Red Sox, of being traded. And now he's stuck in St. Louis unless something changes. And it seems like a very similar situation is currently playing out in New York with Marcus Stroman as well. And we've even seen him speak out that he's not willing to be in the bullpen, that he's wanted to stay as a starting pitcher. And I think it's raining right now in Scottsdale, which that's kind of breaking news. Did not expect that. I think it's dumping rain right now. So that's very unique. But Stroman has been a player who's been pretty actively shopped all offseason, and the Yankees have just not found any takers there whatsoever. That contract, from the moment it was signed, felt like it had no chance of really working out. I've said that plenty of times. I've continued to say it. And now they're probably, I don't want to say they're probably stuck with him, but I mean, it seems like if they haven't found a taker now, that he's probably going to end up staying there. But I would imagine both sides are very open to a trade, and we'll see what his future holds. But both Arenado and Stroman, their futures are pretty up in the air at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to go in with the rare, maybe unexpected, I don't know, very pro Marcus Stroman take here. I am not going to flame him for reporting late to camp. He also wasn't late. He just reported after the initial date for pitchers and catchers report. He's there today. He's talking. And I'm not going to flame him for saying he's not a bullpen arm. He's not a bullpen arm. He only makes sense as a starting pitcher. He doesn't necessarily miss bats. He was a 3.09 ERA guy on the road last year, struggled at home at Yankee Stadium with a 5+ mark, but the Yankees signed him last offseason. He, by and large, did his job. He struggled at the end of the year and played his way off the World Series roster, which happens. It's fine. And the Yankees regretted a deal that they mutually agreed upon. That's what happened. So once the Yankees decide, okay, you're not in our rotation plans, Marcus Stroman, I don't know what they planned to do after signing Max Fried. If it was move Stroman, which it definitely seems like was their number one goal, or, flip Clark Schmidt in a Kyle Tucker trade, or flip Luis Gil in a high profile trade. They had 6 starters from the moment they signed Max Fried, and they were all 6 well-paid starters, or last year's rookie of the year, or Clark Schmidt, high upside guys. So at that point, you have to figure out a way to get one of those guys off the roster in all likelihood, or talk to somebody like Schmidt or Gil and talk to them about coming out of the bullpen. If it's Stroman out of the bullpen, he has to want to do that. He's a bad fit for that role and wasn't interested. So at that point, you've made your bed. You signed the contract. You have to figure out how to get him out of there. He can't show up to spring training and give interviews today, like the one where he said, I'm a starting pitcher. I'm not pitching out of the bullpen. He can't be there. He can't be the narrative distraction. You're bringing him into camp at the same time the Red Sox are welcoming Alex Bregman. You are losing the vibes race. And it's your fault. So not Stroman's fault at all that he doesn't want to do something he's not suited to and has never done before. It's the Yankees' fault for not figuring out a solution here. And you might have to just pay the full $18 million to get him out of there at this point. I think he'd be valuable depth if there was a way to keep him. if there's a way to keep him happy, he's going to make starts, but there's not. So he's got to go. And that's nothing against him.
No, and I think you're spot on. It feels like, at least from our point of view, like that bridge has been burned. And he found out through reports that he was being shopped and that he was being mentioned in trade talks, unfollowed the Yankees on Instagram, didn't report right away. Now he's there, and he's made it clear that he does not want to pitch in the bullpen. And I also feel for him too, having his house burned down in those California fires. Like that is, that sucks.
Real world ramifications. Yeah. And people don't necessarily think about that when they're just commenting, oh, I can't believe he's not at camp like 2 days before he was. Okay, well, obviously there's a lot going on here.
No, exactly. And it also brings up something I'm pretty passionate about, is that we forget that these players are people. Like they deal with stuff just as much as we do. And it's like that impacted him. Like there's been a lot of other stuff for other players and that have led to some different struggles or whatever. Like, remember, these guys are people, and you may not be happy with Stroman for reporting late. You may not be happy with how this entire situation has played out. I get it. I hear you. But Stroman's a person. He's dealing with some stuff, and he's being there with his family. So, like, I have no issues with that whatsoever. I hope for his sake that he's traded or this situation resolves itself. But yeah, let's just not forget that these guys are people.
Absolutely. And the comments, just one comment saying that the Yankees passed on Shota and Imanaga to sign Stroman. That's not true. It's just two pitchers who were technically available in an offseason. But they passed on Imanaga because they didn't think his fly ball profile worked at Yankee Stadium. They had January 5th, 2024, quote, no interest in him. So, you know, those were two pitchers who were available last offseason. They got one and didn't get the other, but they weren't weighing both. And decided to go grab one. And also, it's a two-way street. You know, we don't know anything about Imanaga's interest in the Yankees, but appreciate the comment. It is true the Yankees did not come out of that offseason with the better pitcher, and the Cubs did. So, yeah, got to move on from Stroman. Not Stroman's fault at all. And now the comment saying it is true. Okay, it isn't. But, again, I would love to know what you're referring to when you say that. Nick Pivetta is a San Diego Padre. And like the comments noted, he did get the Red Sox the draft pick that helped them withstand the loss of a draft pick from signing Alex Bregman. So those moves will be intertwined. The gambit finally paid off. The Red Sox got what they wanted when they qualifying offered Nick Pivetta. 4-year, $55 million deal in San Diego for the best remaining arm on the market at a time when we were confused as to whether San Diego would be adding or subtracting from the rotation at this point. And part of the reason they were able to do so is because he's got a $1 million base salary for 2025. This one I know shocked you. So break it down for us. How did this arrive on our doorstep, and how did the Padres sort of change their offseason narrative late as well? And not quite the same way the Red Sox did, but we're definitely thinking about them differently today. Oh, absolutely. And I knew that the Padres were in the starting pitching market. I knew that Pivetta was a player of interest to them, but throughout the entire process here, I didn't really get the sense that it was overly likely. I've heard pretty consistently that the Padres, they were dealing with some pretty significant financial constraints. And I was thinking they were going to be bargain bin kind of shopping. And you know what? To their credit, they got Connor Joe, they got Jason Hayward, who are veteran guys. I did not expect them to get either, especially Hayward, for only $1 million. So I think that was smart GMing by AJ Preller and seeing an opportunity in striking. But getting Nick Pivetta for 4 years for $54 million, and then also getting him for a $1 million base salary in 2025. That was an incredible job by Preller, and striking with an opportunity here and getting a proven veteran starter and a guy like Pivetta. And to my knowledge, like Pivetta had pretty widespread interest throughout the entire offseason. And I know there were some people who were kind of surprised that he didn't ultimately end up accepting the qualifying offer. But it sounded like he had some other offers that were pretty intriguing. I know one team that I had heard linked to him was actually the Guardians. There were some other teams that were poking around there as well. But I did not have the sense that anything was imminent. And then all of a sudden, the Padres got very aggressive toward the end. And once it became clear that they were able to get him for that kind of salary for the first year, that's when that deal really picked up in likelihood and ultimately ended up getting done. And the Padres, they ended up signing Kyle Hart the day after. He had widespread interest
coming back to the States here. Drew interest from around like 20 teams throughout the entire offseason, but the Padres got him. Also for $1 million, it seems like that 1 million mark is there's a reason why they're doing that, everybody. Like that, their financial constraints right now are very, very, very real. But that being said, they are active in the market. They are continuing conversations. They're doing a lot of different things here, and trying to see exactly what's going on. But as I said on a previous show, Michael King and Dylan Cease are very likely here to stay. They're kind of now on the record in saying that, but that's been the direction that they've been heading in recent weeks. And now it was that direction, and also signing guys for these super cheap, like 1 million salaries. And we've continued to see that. And I do not expect Preller to be done quite yet.
And some good comment questions from our All-Stars, specifically, if AJ Preller has a successful season, do you think he gets an extension in San Diego? It does feel like now that he is making some stealthy late moves, and the vibes are slightly higher in San Diego than they were earlier in the offseason, certainly after the Sasaki chase, that we do have to consider the possibility that this very good team from last year is very good again, and AJ Preller might get rewarded. So what are your thoughts on that?
This is me just totally speculating on this. I want to make that clear. This is no real like sourced info. I think the Padres should absolutely try their best to extend AJ Preller. Like, he is one of the most gifted GMs in baseball. Like, obviously he signed players to these huge mega deals. He's made these trades and continue to have prospects in order to make these trades, but also the prospects that have debuted in the majors, especially Jackson Merrill, who have led to this roster being as talented as it is. But one thing that I know with Preller is that he loves to be aggressive. He is as aggressive as any GM in baseball. And this offseason has really tested him, because it's been very little flexibility here. And I wonder if, in order to stay in San Diego, he would ask the team, or he would have to make sure that the team would give him more to work with in the offseason, because it's been not much to work with here. And if he ended up leaving San Diego, we'd have plenty of opportunities. Again, that's just my own speculation. I promise you no sources there whatsoever. That's my own two thoughts. But Preller deserves to have as much flexibility in constructing a roster as he possibly can. In this offseason, ownership, whoever it is, has failed him.
Preller, any interest in filling the Yankees third base hole? Blink twice if you'd like to do Brian Cashman's job. Love the comments saying we need a Vibe Race shirt. I think we probably do need a Vibe Race shirt, or at least check in on the Vibe Race throughout the season like we would check in on the standing. So good shout there. Love that. Stealing Robert's catchphrase, saying good shout, but I like seeing that comment. One all-star question I want to touch on as well, because I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Anthony Rendon in the show a little bit, because between our last show and this one, we were asked to talk about Rendon on the show I did with Jess Kleinstein on Wednesday, but you and I, Robert, haven't spoken about him in a while. Out for an extremely long time, time indeterminate, period, has no end. The sentence begins, Anthony Rendon is out, and the end of the sentence is somewhere off beyond the horizon. He was not part of their plan, whether he was healthy or not. Not surprising that he is not healthy, though. Hip surgery, return is question mark, question mark, question mark. That's 3 question marks. So the question from T-Pain17, are the Angels still involved in the hitting market after the news, or are they focused mostly on relievers? The Angels infield pretty stacked, even without Rendon, because they went in knowing probably can't rely on this guy. Zach Neto may not be ready for opening day, but Rengifo Shanuel, Christian Moore soon enough, Yoan Moncada, Kevin Newman's there, Scott Kingery supremacy, a return to prominent role. So thoughts on the Angels as we get to the tail end of the offseason?
Yeah, the Angels never expected much, if anything, from Rendon this season. That was very clear inside that organization. They were not expecting much from Rendon. That entire situation is incredibly sad, because when he was a free agent, especially coming off the seasons that he had with the Washington Nationals, he was one of the more highly regarded players in baseball. And ever since, it's been him saying that baseball is not his priority. It's been him dealing with a bunch of different injuries. It's been him having arguably the worst contract in baseball history. It's led to a lot of different questions about him, and fair or not, it very much is one of, if not the worst contracts ever. and they were not expecting much from him this season, and I would be really surprised if he ended up playing for the Angels again. As far as the rest of the Angels' offseason goes, even after signing Kenley Jensen, they do remain in the market for bullpen help. That much I can say. Whether or not anything gets across the finish line remains to be seen, but they are in the bullpen market right now. So that could be something to watch in the coming days and weeks ahead. But that is my Angels update as of this point.
And we appreciate the question. The Rendon thing, yeah, I can't think of many more heroic playoff runs than what he did in 2019. At that point, it was pretty hard to know that this is how it would turn out. So worst contract I've ever seen at that money? Probably, yeah. But that's a player I wanted in my foxhole that year, watching from an outside perspective. And I am very surprised at both the severe injury issues and whether they've affected his attitude or not. I'm sure they have, because nobody wants to have to go through that. Anything else in your notebook that I didn't touch on that you want to talk about? We are getting to the end of the offseason, sadly, and we've got some stuck players, but the thing I'm surprised about constantly throughout spring training is the non-roster invitees and minor league deals, the people that just show up. Michael Chavis showed up at Dodgers camp today, and everyone was like, I guess they signed Michael Chavis. Pretty cool. That's the kind of thing that happens throughout February and March. And there's that dude. Oh, right. Cool. Forgot about Jacob Junis is a Guardian. Cool. And there's still plenty of relievers, and there's still plenty of familiar names hanging out in the market who might have to settle for a minor league contract. Anything in the notebook, anything you're expecting in the coming days, maybe as 60-day IL people start to drop off and people are able to, elevate some players chilling on the bench?
I have a gripe with the Milwaukee Brewers, actually. This is one thing I wanted to get off my chest. I've had people tell me in recent days, and they've mentioned how their payroll has been declining in recent years. And I looked it up, and this is via Spotrac. But in 2022, their payroll was $130 million. In 2023, it was $115 million. Last year, it was $114 million. And right now for 2025, they have it listed at a little under $100 million. And they are coming off of an offseason here after trading Devin Williams. They lost Willy Adames in free agency. They think they have internal replacements for both of those guys, but this team you have one of the biggest and best young superstars in Jackson Chourio. You don't know how much longer Christian Yelich is going to continue to perform like this. You have a roster that is very talented, but it needed further additions in order to compete this year. And that division in the NL Central is wide open for the taking, and they have not done so. And this is my call for Mark Attanasio to go out and change that. There's still some really good free agents that are out there. They could use some rotation help. I feel like a guy like Jose Quintana would be a great piece for the Brewers. There's other players that I think would be great pieces for them. But the fact that they've continually had a declining payroll, despite having one of the more savvy front offices in baseball and a really good manager in Pat Murphy, they need to change that. They have an opportunity to do so, but that window is dwindling now with spring training here and that offseason seemingly almost over at this point.
Yeah, Jackson Chourio and Jesus Mate on the come up. The young talent in Milwaukee's system, your guy, Jacob Mizorowski. I mean, the talent is always there. They do an incredible job at developing the talent pipeline internationally through the draft, etc. The roster is stacked with young players who are currently making not much money, which is the reason why you want to surround them with people who are making just a little bit more money. Not asking you to sign the Alex Bregman deal, just saying we can inch that above zero.
No, exactly. And they should. I know they've had some conversations here recently, but I don't think Attanasio has given that front office much to work with. And that's not a Matt Arnold thing. That's an Attanasio thing. As far as other stuff that I've heard, I've gotten a bunch of Pirates questions here. Mm-hmm. They are not close to anything. They're continuing to look at a couple of different fronts here, but nothing is close. I know our friend DK has mentioned some different things with the Pirates.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to listen to this podcast. Probably not. He doesn't usually dabble in listening to the media that we produce. So
no, he's a clown. So DK, if you're watching this, you're a clown.
Oops.
Yep, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for the Pirates questions, though, everybody, because it allowed us to say that. So there you go, win-win. Thank you for watching again, everybody. Thanks for joining us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3:30, 1 o'clock, and back to 3:30. But next week, Monday is a holiday. So we are not on Monday. Catch us Wednesday and Friday next week. And Friday, I will be in the Bay Area. So you're going to have a Robert Murray show without me, which I know is what everybody is psyched for anyway. All the comments on the Wednesday show saying I look like the opposite of a supermodel or whatever. Yeah, I've registered your complaints. So I'll get out of here for Friday's show, and then I'll be back for the week after that. We appreciate everybody joining us. Big fun day, big fun Friday, spring training. I love the hubbub of the offseason, but this means freaking baseball is here. So what's better than that? Top Series 1 is here. I'm opening a jumbo box. I mean, annual tradition. Does it get better than that? For some, maybe. For me, no. And Robert Murray, thank you for joining me as always as we usher in the regular season or get close to it. It's crazy.
It got here quick, but I'm excited for baseball to get here. I'm excited to start going out to camps here starting next week. I got my credential finally, which is always a good thing. Got some family coming into town later tonight, so I'm going to be spending some time with them, and then it's going to be hitting the ground running at camps. And I'm very anxious to provide all those details here on the podcast with you, Adam. I appreciate you for doing this. Joanne, our lovely producer who is back, we appreciate you. Go Birds, and we'll see everyone back here. What, Tuesday?
Wednesday?
I think Wednesday.
Yeah. Wednesday, I believe. We'll let everybody know if that changes, and obviously got a notification bell for a reason, so subscribe, turn those on. You'll know when we're going live. I'm going to try to do a little East Coast spring training swing as well, so maybe we get a little 3 days of Adam scoops here in early March.
Yeah, sources do say that our next podcast will be on Wednesday. I think Joanne, our producer, had it first, but sources say the next podcast is on Wednesday.
Yeah, I can confirm that as well. And we look forward to seeing you all here then. Until Wednesday afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.